President, you said Sidney Powell wasn't your attorney. Are you concerned that you won't be covered by attorney-client privilege?
No, not at all. We did nothing wrong. We did nothing. This is all Biden. Indictments and impeachments, and this is all about Biden. He can't do anything right. The only thing they know how to do is cheat on elections and election fraud. This is all Biden stuff. All of these indictments that you see. I was never indicted. Practically never heard the word. It wasn't a word that registered.
Sorry, what? First of all, Trump was asked whether he was concerned that after claiming Sidney Powell wasn't his attorney, that he wouldn't be covered by attorney-client privilege, which, to be clear, is a massive misstep, even for a guy who commits massive missteps on a daily basis. Just days ago, after news broke that Sidney Powell would be cooperating with prosecutors in Fulton County, Georgia, Trump did what he always does and immediately tried to discredit her, even going so far as to claim that she was never his attorney, which, of course, is completely undermined by Trump's own statements, like this one from November of 2020. Quote, "I look forward to Mayor Giuliani spearheading the legal effort to defend our right to free and fair elections. Rudy Giuliani, Joseph DeGenova, Victoria Tensing, Sidney Powell, and Jenna Ellis, a truly great team, added to our other wonderful lawyers and representatives." Only small problem, by claiming, however erroneously, that she wasn't his attorney, he screwed himself in two ways. First, he won't be able to claim attorney-client privilege, which, by the way, would likely be struck down by the crime fraud exception anyway, because attorney-client privilege doesn't apply when it's in furtherance of a crime. And second, he loses his advice of counsel defense, that he merely acted at the direction of his attorney, whom he entrusted to act in accordance with the law. And so now, by claiming that she wasn't his attorney, he's stripping himself of his own defenses in court. And considering he didn't have too many defenses to begin with, I'd say things just went from bad to worse for Donald Trump. And look, there will be those who say, well, Sidney Powell is too much of a liar for any jury to believe her anyway, so how is her flipping actually going to hurt Trump? Here's my Legal Breakdown co-host Glenn Kirshner answering that point perfectly. When we see that Sidney Powell is cooperating, given who she is, how can prosecutors trust that her cooperation is actually valid? Like, doesn't her very well-known lunacy kind of detract from her value as a cooperating witness?
Great question. So just because you plead guilty and you agree to testify against others, there's no guarantee that you're the kind of witness a jury is going to believe. These are tactical considerations. Anytime a prosecutor is trying to decide whether to offer a defendant a plea with cooperation. Let me give you an easy example. Rudy Giuliani. As a prosecutor, would I ever want to put Rudy Giuliani on the stand and urge a jury to believe a word out of his mouth when you know his cross-examination would start with, "Mr. Giuliani, you were the one who famously said truth isn't truth." Who's going to believe Rudy Giuliani? So he is the kind of defendant no prosecutor, relishes the prospect of bringing into the stable, putting on the stand, and presenting him to a jury, because you know what that does? It actually dirties up the prosecutors by implication when you're sponsoring such a cruddy and apparently incredible defendant as a cooperating witness. Now, going back to Sidney Powell, you're absolutely right, Brian. We saw her go on air and make all these outrageous claims of non-existent election fraud. Those were lies. So how do you put her on the stand and urge a jury to believe her? Two ways. One, corroboration. I have taught classes on how to deal with cooperating witnesses, and the three most important words are corroboration, corroboration, and corroboration. You have to get every scrap of evidence and information that supports the truthfulness of what Sidney Powell will tell those juries once she's testifying at the trial of others down in Georgia. That will be her emails, her text messages, her written notes. It will also be the statements of others who heard what Donald Trump said and did, what Rudy Giuliani said and did, what Mark Meadows said and did, because you can corroborate one witness with the testimony of another witness. But most importantly, we like to use what we kind of in offhanded fashion refer to as hard corroboration. And that is things that are in writing, that are indisputable and irrefutable. So they're going to be scouring all of Sidney Powell's computers and cell phone, her files. She has now pledged to cooperate and give them all over to the prosecutors down in Georgia as part of her plea agreement. So they're going to have to corroborate her. And once they do, Brian, here is how the argument will go before the jury. Ms. Powell, you lied and lied and lied and lied to the public over the public airwaves about non-existent election fraud. Isn't that true? Yes, I did. Why? Because I was lying for Donald Trump at his request to try to help him unlawfully retain the presidency. What you've done is you converted her lies into incriminating evidence that implicates Donald Trump, because that is for whom she was telling those lies. So I know that feels like a law school class, because there's a lot to unpack with a witness like Sidney Powell. But, you know, I've danced that dance many times with cooperating witnesses, and this is how I expect it to play out.
Okay. In a sense, the more egregious her lies, the more damning an indictment of Donald Trump. Because remember, she was telling those lies on his behalf. So if she seemed completely detached from reality, that is a testament to what she was doing on behalf of Donald Trump himself. But aside from the Sidney Powell of it all, you might notice that Trump said this.
This is all Biden stuff, all of these indictments that you see. I was never indicted.
That he was never indicted. So, who wants to tell him? I'm not sure who needs to hear this, but yes, he has been indicted 4 times on 91 criminal charges in New York, Florida, Washington, D.C., and Fulton County, Georgia. So either he's lying, or he somehow doesn't know the dire position that he's in. But either way, it is more than disqualifying. And finally, he spends the majority of this response in the initial clip rambling that this is Biden, a suggestion that Joe Biden is responsible for him being indicted. Here's the thing. It was not Joe Biden who indicted him. It was not a Democrat who indicted him. It was not any politician who indicted him. Donald Trump was indicted by juries of his own peers in a raft of different jurisdictions based on the evidence presented in court. The Republican Party loves to frame itself as the party of personal responsibility. It is about time they learned how to actually take some. So Donald Trump will continue to run these little PR events outside of the courtroom to undermine the case against him, but lying through his teeth isn't going to do a single thing to protect him where it actually matters, which is in a court of law. What it will do, though, is continue to whittle away at his defenses like it did this time when he claimed that Sidney Powell was never even his lawyer. So the next time he tries to blame his actions on her and that argument is swiftly swatted away, Donald Trump will only have himself to thank for it. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Before you go, I need some help. Please subscribe to the channel and do your part to help grow the progressive media ecosystem. I don't do sponsorships or paid ads, I won't ask for money, but just subscribing to this channel goes a really long way, and it helps get the message out to more people. The subscribe button is right here on the screen. You can also subscribe to my Spanish language channel, which I made to reach those crucial Spanish-speaking voters. That link is on the screen too. And finally, if you want to listen to my audio podcast, you can follow that link as well. Thanks so much for watching.